now.
Good evening, everyone. My thanks to all of you who are regular members of XENA and to all those who are new and joining in uh, to these sessions. My thanks to Rajiv for giving me this opportunity to share something that I am very passionate about, and that is health. We are hearing across the world, not just India, on the importance of mental health. Because whether it is COVID or it is stress or X or Y, people are generally very stressed out. But there is a catch here, and Bach remedies are designed to deal with this kind of stress. But I do find a catch. There are some people who will mix seven remedies going symptom by symptom and then drink that through the day, and they don't get the results they expect. I have enough messages from people telling me that it's just 48 hours and I've never had such a good experience for 20 years. And then you have others who say, oh, I've been using remedies for a year and I don't see any benefit. Now, there's a very simple reason to this, a couple of reasons. The most simple is if you come to a traffic light and there are four policemen, each pointing to a different direction, where will you go? And that is what happens to the brain when it gets too many instructions. Because people pick remedies based on random symptoms. So they may have something for anger, something for confidence, something. The pura khichdi goes into that so-called mixing bottle. And many remedies, because remedies are energy, many remedies will cancel each other out. Some remedies will aggravate a different situation. So if you're taking holly for anger, you certainly don't want to take hornbeam on top of that. Hornbeam is known to aggravate anger. When you make these so-called mixed bottles, you very often come up in a situation where different remedies actually cancel each other out, a bit like your noise cancelling headphones. They're in the wrong frequency. Or like in music, you do not play notes at random if those notes are not in the same key as your primary source, what they call it. So just random mixing of remedies is one guarantee for bad results. Not anywhere near the results you will get if you choose two or three remedies that target one key emotion. Deal with that first, then go to the next. You cannot get your whole emotional makeup to change just because you put seven remedies into your stomach. Bach remedies don't work that way. So that's one of the biggest pitfalls. The second is to treat symptoms or emotions kind of at random. It doesn't work either. Everywhere in nature, whether it's in my technology or with remedies, we find that method and strategy is important. If you sit on a chessboard and simply play chess pieces according to the moves that are allowed, so I move my knight at random, I move my bishop at random, I'm not going to win that game for sure. Every chess player has a strategy. He decides what he wishes to achieve, how is the best way to achieve it. And frankly, I do much the same when I do a 2 hour detailed consultation. I go back to childhood. Very often there are issues that are buried that deep. Yesterday I got someone saying, how do I deal with the fact that I've been savagely beaten by a parent, I'm sure, since I was a child? And I said, the only way I can tell you is first get rid of this anger. Before we do anything else, before we try to deal with any other issue, You need to put this particular anger to rest. Good, bad, or whatever. Tragically, it's a fact that people are human, and if a parent is beating the child unnecessarily, you can also look and ask what is so wrong in their lives that they're taking it out on a child. You really need to look as to what is driving these emotions and then go systematically. Fear is another very strong emotion, and people sometimes are just full of fear. They're afraid about X and Y, they're afraid about everything. And whatever you try and do, you come to a block. You will not be able to move forward in dealing with other emotions. So, fear is another emotion to be dealt with early. I have a 5 step process, and I've documented this in my book because it's necessary to follow a process, not just be at random. Okay. The first thing I look at is the current crisis. Is this person in a crisis at this moment? And if so, you must bring that crisis level down. Otherwise, again, there will be no great response if you're trying to deal with other emotions. Now, the remedies for crisis are many. Oh, fine. Okay. So, if a person is going through stress currently, immediately at this moment, you need to bring that stress down. There are remedies like rescue remedy, sweet chestnut, rock rose, star of Bethlehem, that very quickly reduce stress. And I mean not like an aspirin or a opioid. I mean it quickly, immediately they cut the stress level down. Then you can deal with other issues. They asked me once at the Bach Center, how come you give rescue remedies so frequently? And I said, listen, when a person has given up on other forms of medication and they have come to me for Bach remedies, it's very clear that they are in a crisis. And if I do not pull them out of that crisis first, they are not really going to either respect the remedies, welcome them, and certainly they'll wonder what I'm doing. So, first thing that I do when people come in is I cut the stress level down. It may take a day, it may even take 2 days, but that's all it takes to reduce stress in a person. The next layer is actually the past. If there is something in the past, you really must deal with it. I had someone say, listen, I have memories of myself as a excuse me, child being neglected, X, Y, Z. I can't get over this memory. And I tell them, but you have to. Whatever has happened when you were that young should not be carried into your adulthood. You must make peace with it. There's no choice. It's not a matter of what's good and what's bad. And I'm not justifying what was done to you. I'm just saying that you are not helping yourself if you don't let the past go. Now, this can be of two kinds. You can have trauma from the past, which is the remedy walnut, or you have people who hang on to the past. And the classic case of this is your retired army officer sitting in the mess in the evening talking about his old victories. He's living in the past. But it's a lot more than that. People who have left any kind of high level job, government personnel, and now are sitting idle at home have their mind constantly going back to the past. And among the things it leads to is Alzheimer's. There's no focus on the present, on tomorrow. And that remedy is honeysuckle. Very often people mix up the two. They give honeysuckle for the trauma and walnut for the living in the past. It's not correct. Yes, people do live in the past. I know people who, when they talk to me, are constantly talking about past achievements. I even know one lady who said, I'll divorce my husband before I leave the city I was born in. I don't want to leave the city. And mind you, in Europe, one city is very much like another. They all have the same facilities, the same opera, the same whatever it is. The lady was adamant. She said, no, I don't want to leave the home I'm familiar with. You also see this with children who don't let go their toys. And I used to have a rule with my children that every time I give you one or two toys, you will give away the same number to an orphanage. You cannot accumulate toys. You play with them. When you're through with them, give them away to somebody who cannot afford to buy toys. So, honeysuckle is actually a very common thing, especially when it comes to relationships. I'm surprised at how many times women have told me, oh, we've got married to suit my parents, but I'm still in love with this boyfriend of mine from before. So she's in a committed marriage with one man, but her mind is on somebody else. Now, if you do not let that go, it's going to destroy your marriage. So, dealing with the past is very critical. The next two layers are anger and fear. If you do not get rid of anger quickly, it will disturb everything. And the same applies to fear. The last layer I deal with is self image because it kind of depends on the first four layers and it is extremely complex. People's self image can be damaged for a variety of reasons, from their physical looks to the way they have been spoken to in their house, family, in school. And once a child's self image is destroyed, it lasts through adulthood. People don't grow up with a good, positive sense of who they are. And this leads to a surprising number of illnesses. But even more than illness, it can lead to failure. You don't assert yourself in your work. You are not committed to X, Y thing because you feel you are somehow not good enough. And the result is failure. And that failure only further exaggerates or whatever you want to call it, the feeling of being not good enough, a bad self image. I've had a number of people, and especially women, who have serious issues, but their entire focus when they come to me is So please get rid of the blemish first. My complexion is not bright. First, deal with my image. And once we do that, that person is very happy. And then they become cooperative. But as long as the self image is a bloody issue with them, their focus is only on that. What about my blemish? What about my eyes? What about this? What about that? And there are not one, but at least six, seven remedies that help with self image, maybe more also, because it's a complex subject. And I deal with it last after at least I have reduced the levels of anger, fear, dealt with the past, dealt with the crisis, brought that person to a point of stability, and then deal with self image. Because it can also lead to violent outbursts. If you've been suppressed because you think you're subnormal or whatever, and I suddenly give you remedies like Hornbeam and Centauri, it will very often result in an outburst. And that may be directed at your family because you blame your family for your self image issue, or be directed at your spouse, or even at your boss. So be careful when dealing with self image. And that is where the topic of today's conversation, which was picked by Rajiv, was, if you don't mind, please read my book. As opposed to the random do it yourself approach that other books tend to follow, where every remedy, every emotion is treated as, oh, well, it's equal, it's an emotion, deal with it. I have structured my work over 40 years, also because I deal very often with people who are either strangers to me or at least long distance. They're not sitting in front of me. Somebody may be in Canada, and it may be a few days before I get feedback. So I follow, and this is also because of my software work, my technology, I follow a very structured approach. So, what if you deal with one problem after 10 days rather than today? First, get rid of the critical issues. Then come to certain other issues which may bother the person but are not that critical. They're not critical to their day to day life, to their job, to their relationships. It's a very methodical approach, and I, for one, do believe genuinely that giving a few remedies, two, three remedies at a time, monitoring the progress daily if needed in chats, then select another two, three remedies to deal with the next level. And that way, in 10 to 15 days, we get a pretty clear picture of what is really critical to this individual. We understand what remedies they are responding to most. I also almost insist that people take a remedy at a time, alone. Take the next remedy after a few minutes, after you've had a chance to feel the effect of the first remedy. And sometimes I also tell people, if you like that remedy so much and it made you feel so positive, don't take the next remedy. Wait for a couple of hours. Stay in that positive state of mind. There's no point hurrying things. Rushing things doesn't lead to good results in any aspect of our lives. Being methodical is important. Being structured is very important. Like I said, don't sit on a chessboard without a clear strategy in your head, or you're going to lose the game. And I know I'm a decent chess player, and I've sat down sometimes to a game with a friend, say in Germany, uh, and he's wiped the bloody board with me. And then I realized that I'm following a certain set pattern in my game, which he's understood, and he's attacking in a particular manner that is guaranteed to break through. And I'm not seeing that. I am not, maybe I just, frankly, after 2 glasses of wine, I'm not that serious about my chess playing. But the point is that, like to him, if he plays to win, wine or no wine. And if I do not have a clear structure in my approach, he's going to wipe me out. There's no debate on that. So, at the risk of repeating, please understand Bach remedies can be self administered. This is because they are usually very safe. So, it's not like allopathic medicine. You can medicate yourself. But because human emotions are so complex, that self medication doesn't always work. You very often need an objective consultant who takes the trouble. I'm not talking about half the dozen so called big names in India today who just are giving medicine remedies at random. Oh, person has said X, Y, A, B, C. Here are 7 remedies, take it and go. And don't come back for 30 days, which is stupid. Because I've seen some people get very bad reactions and they don't even know which remedies they've been given and they don't know which remedy is causing the, uh, say, adverse. I'm saying bad in a very sensible way. It's not that you're going to get sick or fall ill because you've taken the wrong remedy. But I know a lady who's gone up literally, works 18 years in a multinational, called me frantically. She said, Ashok, I don't know what this person has given me. But, and this is in the middle of COVID. She said, I've almost got up to my boss's table and threw my resignation down in 3 days. I said, you have probably been given the remedy wild oat. If you are getting bored and unhappy with your work, okay, wild oat is, in a sense, the critical remedy. But it doesn't mean that you take it recklessly. It can precipitate a divorce. It can precipitate, uh, or I call it irrational change of job. It can create any kind of situation. You do not take wild oat casually. It's a very powerful remedy. It's to be taken when we are at the crossroads of our lives, whether personal, professional, whatever. But be aware that wild oat will push you to action. So I always ask people, are you ready for such an action? And I've had people tell me, no, not now. Don't do it right now. I'm not prepared. Okay? It's the same with remedies like Centauri, agrimony, where these remedies are going to bring out suppressed emotion. I always ask a person, hey, I think you need this remedy, but I'm not going to give it to you without your permission. Never had someone tell me, no, Ashok, not now. If I get aggressive, if I get this, that's the end of my marriage. We're at a bad, we're at a bad place in this marriage. Don't give me anything that will shake me up. Help me be more patient, more peaceful, more amenable. Do not give me something that makes me fight back. Because a fight at this time will mean a divorce. So the remedy itself is correct. Question is, are you prepared for it? So I come back to my primary point. Do not give remedies at random. Do not give too many remedies at one time. Do not give remedies to someone without telling them what you're giving and asking whether they are ready for that particular remedy. You cannot be, anything else is unmethodical, unstructured. And that's what I emphasize in my book, that you must take a very structured approach. And then you'll get brilliant results with Bach remedies. I'm telling you, within days, within a few days, things that have bothered you for 20 years can go away, or at least be subdued. They won't go away fully. You may need to take a remedy for a week, even longer, to clear out the residue. Our emotions are like a large ship. Yes, you can turn it around, but it won't spin like a dime. It takes time for that ship to turn around. And you have to understand this very fundamental principle. It's not an issue with the Bach remedies. It's the sheer complexity of the human mind and how reluctant people are sometimes to change their way of thinking. In some cases, people just don't want to change, and there's nothing you can do. I've had a woman get angry in a public forum saying, "How dare Ashok tell me that I have to forgive XYZ? I don't. He has not experienced what I have gone through." To which my answer is, well, ma'am, I've experienced some pretty tough stuff in my life. But I've learned that not forgiving and holding on to anger only poisons us. The first thing I make myself do is forgive, let it go. The other is the very odd emotion we call gratitude. Yes, sometimes I do feel life has been a bit tough with me, no doubt. And then I remember these four lines. I cried because I had no shoes till I met a child who had no feet. And I literally got like this on my head and say, stop complaining. Don't focus on what is not perfect. Why don't you look at the fact that life gave you reasonable looks, a good education, a stable family when you were young, and so on and so forth? Okay, problems have happened in your life, and most of them are because of you taking bad business decisions or not taking the correct ones. Put it either way. Life has not betrayed you, life has not done shit to you. Most of the things that happen to us as adults are our responsibility. And at the same time, you'll realize that in its own way, life continues to support you and give you little things here, there, you know. Like I talked to one guy and he was so happy with his wife and relationship, but so unhappy with everything else, like his job, that he was making a mess of his family life. And I finally told him, I said, you've got something rare that most people don't get. You're in a good married relationship. You have children. Why are you constantly bitching about your job? And because of which you are upsetting the atmosphere in your house. Why are you not grateful for what you have got rather than being unhappy with what may not be perfect? And even if it's not perfect, at least it's a high paying job in the medical industry and you're financially secure. Maybe you think you should have been a doctor, maybe you feel you could have done something else. He, in his case, was jealous that his other friends got into information technology, went abroad, have done very well, whereas he got into radiology and stayed behind in India. What can you say? There's no guarantee that if you had also gone to the US, you would have done well. Not everyone does succeed in the US. It's a tough environment. On the other hand, you're living at home and you admit that you have a wonderful wife, a great supportive family.
Yeah, we are
What are
far
you?
up. We are far up time limit. So
Okay. So the last thing that you need to look at in this world is gratitude. Okay. All else uh, is secondary, frankly. Okay. If any of you want my book, try and contact me. Okay. My email is AP Apple Peter Wizard usa.net, or you can message me on the XENA workspace. Okay, you might find it very, very helpful to get that book.
Do
Thanks a
you
lot.